Now I go up to the 5. Here we go. What's wrong?
Have you ever had that one project that you have just been thinking about, dreaming about for literally years? For me, it is an epoxy river desk. And I really should say not a traditional epoxy river desk. Now, I've always had this idea in my head of more of a geometric kind of display with lots of different species of wood that would be underlit and basically glow. And I have literally been thinking about it for probably 2 to 3 years. And honestly, I've just been kind of too chicken to do it. All of that changes today. It is time to finally just get down to it, take care of it. I have no more excuses. It's time to make the desk of my dreams. This is the final design that I have settled on. As you can see, there is a river style that goes through, if you will, but again, it's more of a geometric, almost like a sine wave type look to it. And I'm going to have different species of wood that are going to be matching up to each other. Anywhere from spalted tamarind to walnut to purple heart. I think this is going to give it a really nice look, and it's all going to be capped in one big border of walnut. Bottom line is, I would be lying if I told you I wasn't pretty nervous about this build, since I have hundreds of dollars tied up into it. But that's kind of what woodworking is all about. It's taking a risk, taking a chance on something that you really are passionate about, that you've done the proper planning and prep with, and eventually you just gotta do it. I hope some of this is a how-to for you, but the ultimate goal in this is just to see what I can get done. With that, let's get into tearing down some wood and seeing if we can make this a reality.
One eternity later.
Okay, so all of these are sanded, they are ready to go. Now by themselves, a tiny piece of wood like this would not do very well in epoxy by itself. It would just float away and be awful. So it's time to enact the next phase of my plan. Oh, I hope this works.
To give the desktop the overall thickness I wanted, I'll be affixing the hardwood planks directly to pieces of 3/4 inch plywood. This not only gives me a stable, unified piece for the epoxy pour, but will also make it possible to attach the walnut frame as well as multiple items underneath the desk without screwing directly into the hardwoods or the epoxy. Basically, I want this desk to look beautiful, but I need it to be stable and sturdy, and the plywood makes all of that possible. Because I don't want to see the plywood in the finished product, I'm using a jigsaw to cut away the exposed plywood. It'll also give the hardwoods a floating look when underlit through the epoxy itself, or at least that's the hope. Note, I could have just made a straight cut here, but I like the additional support this wave cut gives the longer planks.
Can we pause for just a second and then just take this in? You know, as a woodworker, there's only so much planning you can do, and things can live rent-free in your head for a long time. And no matter how much you plan and design, there is no substitute for seeing it laid out in person for the first time. And can I tell you, it's magnificent. Like I said, I'm just kind of soaking this in for a moment before I take on the next challenge, which is to build a container to take this whole massive desk and put in there and finally pour some epoxy. This is a good moment. Woodworkers, soak this moment in. You don't get it very often, so you gotta savor it when you can get it. So,
The next day.
I spent the evening making a container from some leftover melamine boards into this swimming pool looking beast. I'm using release tape in this build, but I'm definitely going to try release spray in future pours. Now it's just a matter of removing the extra silicone, and this container was ready. I also used a sacrificial board at the bottom of each piece to keep the planks straight and even during the glue up. Once that came off, I could then just sand everything up to a 320 grit. It's times like this when I realize just how badly I want and need a dust collection system. Epoxy is a dust magnet, so cleaning and letting the dust settle took a while, but it was definitely worth it. After one final dry fit, I locked the two pieces to the container with some screws and silicone, and this baby was ready to roll.
well, after a little over 2 days of prep work, we are finally at the moment of truth. I will say, if you're going to do epoxy pours yourself, one thing you really want to note, and I've said this before, it's all about prep and it's all about setup. So I've got the vacuum chamber at the ready, heat gun at the ready, all my epoxies, all of my containers, everything is ready to go. And I have recruited the help of my wonderful daughter to help do the mixing and pouring, and as well as my wife to work the camera. So that way, once we're into it, we can just focus on making this a successful pour. But with that, let's go ahead and get into what everybody tuned into this video for. It's time to pour some epoxy. after about 45 minutes of some really intense work, this epoxy pour is done for phase one. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, wife. You guys helped me out. I could not have done this without you. But I have been babysitting this now for probably the past 30 minutes to maybe an hour, and I have not noticed any leaks, a couple micro bubbles, but other than that, things have been really, really smooth. I am going to have to call it here, however, because this epoxy is now going to take anywhere between 5 to maybe 7 days to fully cure. So I'm essentially done in the workshop for the next week. I will say, come join me on the next one though. In the next video, I am gonna do one big flood coat and then show you some add-ons that I'm gonna put on this desk to take it from something really, really cool so far to something really special. But that's gonna have to wait till the next video. So until then, I'll see you on the next one.